Hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, and here we have Joelle Jobson.
Hello, everybody.
And this is our show we do Wednesdays at 11 Central. Thanks for joining us. And today's topic is going to be Microsoft Forms. You all vote the day before on what the topic's going to be, so this was pretty overwhelming. We did, back in 2017, 2018, we did other episodes about Microsoft Forms, but they've added and changed several things. They've added a new concept called collections. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about forms again. And let's see, I'll go ahead and get started and share my screen, and I'll show you how you can join in the chat. So wherever you're watching this, you'll be able to, let's see, share my screen. Wherever you're watching this from, you'll be able to see there's a link under the video to click to fill out a form to join for the first time, because we're adding you as a guest. We're inviting you as a guest to this tenant. And so it's a manual process, unfortunately. But once you're in, then you'll get an invite in Microsoft Teams, and you'll be able to go to Teams. At the top right of Teams, you'll be able to toggle to, it'll have the ability to switch your organization up here. You'll be able to toggle to IW Mentor Power Hour. And then once you're in Teams in our tenant, you'll be able to go to the Power Hour team over here to the general channel. And then we have a tab for each of the last few Power Hours that we've had. So here's today's tab. And then when you go to the tab, you'll see this YouTube video. But what you can do is click the little conversation button to pop out the conversation. And this is where we're having our chat. So you can ask questions. It's fun, interactive. So you can watch the video while you're chatting. So yeah, we're already getting a lot of feedback. So right before I went live, I was asking for how people use Microsoft Forms in their organization. So the fun thing about Power Hour is that we're all in this tenant, and Microsoft Forms is something that is in this tenant, of course, that you were all in too. So I'll be able to create forms and have you fill them out. And we've done that in other Power Hours too. We've had several Power Hours where we talked about Microsoft Forms. So this is going, the order of things in here is I'm going to talk sort of about the interface and the concept of collections and ways you can create forms and collaborate on forms, because collections is the main new thing that I kind of wanted to point out. There's not much to it though. So then I'll get into, which is really going to be a rehash of what forms really are and what they're used for and what they are and aren't, and pros and cons. So here we go. So see you all in Teams, and Joelle and I are going to be keeping an eye on the chat. And so you start off in Teams, in Forms, by going to just forms.microsoft.com, and that will take you to the right screen. Now you can also, it's in Office Microsoft 365. So in your tenant, you can also click this little app launcher, the waffle menu, and go to Forms from there. So it's just a couple of different ways to get to it. So here in this interface, the first thing you'll see is your forms. You'll see them in order by the most recent forms you've created. These are some that we actually created for a previous Power Hour. And then you have the ability to pin forms that you create just with this little pin option here. Add to pinned, and that's just for your favorite forms if you want to always be able to quickly get to those, because you might have a whole bunch of them. They might fill up the screen. And then we have the ability to collaborate on forms. So I'll just click on one so you can see what a form looks like, and we'll get more into all the questions and things like that in a form in a few minutes, but that is just the gist of what any given form might look like. So I just close the whole thing. So then we have shared with me, and shared with me those are going to be forms that someone else has shared with you to collaborate on. And you also have my groups down here that's going to stay down here no matter where you click up at the top. And that is going to be where you can create collaborative forms. There'll be group forms. So when I go to my Power Hour group, I can see that it's got the ability to, it's got forms that I created in this group already. So these are forms that you all filled out in a previous Power Hour, actually. And then it's even got deleted forms. So it's like a form recycle bin. And then if I just click new group form, I'm creating a new form, but I can do the drop down, there'll be new group quiz, which is similar to when I'm creating a new form on this little main interface, I can alternately choose new quiz. So the concept of collections it's just like a lot of new things in Microsoft 365. It's a little awkward. So it's, they kind of iron out the awkwardness over time with these things once they figure out what's awkward about it and how people are using it. So to get to the collections button, you click on all my forms here. So once I click on all my forms, then you'll see you have a button here that says new collection. So this is where you can categorize your forms. So that's the idea. Instead of just having this wall of a bunch of forms, which is what it used to be, now you can kind of group them and categorize them. So I'll create a new collection and I'll just call it Human Resources. Human Resources Forms. And then I'll just create another one and call it Marketing Forms. And then once you've created the collections, this is where you can either drag a form into, well, you're supposed to be able to drag it, but you can either drag it or just move to a collection. So in their documentation, they say that you're supposed to be able to drag it. The dragging doesn't quite work yet. So I can move to a collection. And then when I click the ellipsis on a form and choose to move it to a collection, it's just going to tell me the names of the collections that I've created so far. So then see it physically, like it's not on the list anymore, and it moved it to that collection. So as I move them to collections, then it groups them. So now every one of these is going to be not in the list of forms anymore, but inside of the collection. So now I have to go to the collection. So it's like creating a folder. So collection is really just like a folder. Now, the negative thing about this is those group forms, the ones that I showed you a second ago that are related to a Microsoft 365 group, those cannot be put in collections. So right now it's like you have a way of categorizing your forms by putting them associated with a certain Microsoft 365 group, and then a different way of organizing your personal forms, your My Forms, by putting them in a collection. So like I said, it's a little awkward. I'm not sure. I think it's one of those things that's coming soon. So in the documentation and I'll show you where I put the reference information here. In the general channel under posts, if you go to the little I for information, you can see I put the resources. I pinned the resources for Microsoft Forms. And the first thing that I posted there was this link to manage your forms with collections. So in their documentation, they did mention that in the future you'll be able to put things that are group forms will be able to be in collections. It just doesn't do that yet. So it is coming. Okay, let me go back to get my chat here. Okay. And then so Charles said, does MS Forms have plans for folders? That's what a collection is. A collection, see, I just move these forms to basically to folders. So I don't know why they're not calling them folders, but that's exactly what you're doing, because you're drilling down into the collection to get the forms in there. Now, obviously you can't create a subfolder, but that is at least one level, right? Does that make sense? Let's see. Yeah, so it is a awkward thing to find. So it's not in GCC, it's not in government tenants yet. And if you just go to forums.microsoft.com, you're just on the main screen and you immediately don't see it. It's because you have to go to that link that says all my forms to get to it. So that's, at first you'll think, oh, I don't have it yet, but there it is, new collection. So, and then the only thing you can do with collections is rename it. Now you can copy a whole collection. So let me copy a collection, and it copies the whole collection and puts a copy of the form in there too. Interesting. So let me go to this form. I'll just call this form version 2, and then I see that it's saving, and we're going to verify that this is a copy of, I've got so many tabs here. So I'm going to refresh the main screen, go to all my forms, go to Human Resources Forms. I'll just say number 2. That's the copy that I made. And then Join Our Teams version 2 is in there. And then Join Our Team. So yeah, so that's what copies a whole set of forms. So that's kind of nice, the capability of just saying here, let's just make a whole different set. And then maybe you just have like 1 or 2 things you want to tweak on each form or something like that. Then you could do that. And then of course you can look at them in a list. And that's not just inside of here, but that's just a capability that you'll see on this forms interface, is the ability to see them in a list. I usually like reading things like this in a list better than in tiles. So I see I can do that here on the main screen too, just because to me it's just easier to read them like that when you can quickly just look at the name of them. So any form, you could already copy the form, but at least now you can do a whole group, put them in a collection and copy that. So that was really the gist that we're 12 minutes into Power Hour. That was really the gist of the new thing that I wanted to point out. So I'll go ahead and go to kind of what I said of just a recap of what Forms is, because again, it's misconstrued a little bit, because Microsoft Forms the name of it just makes it seem like it does a lot more than it really does. So what is Microsoft Forms? It is a one-way form. One way. Someone fills it in. It is a new form. That's all it is. It is never an edit form. So for people who are old school SharePoint, InfoPath people, you can never go open a previously filled out form and see the data in it. So that's a huge roadblock for a lot of business processes, right, Joelle? Because most times you need to be able to go back into the form. So it's one way. And once someone has filled out a form, so let's go look at, so I've got this employee check-in, I've got 15 responses. This is one that we filled in. The way you look at the responses is really kind of like in this interface, or in this, you can click to open it in a spreadsheet. So that is just by default what you get as far as how to look at responses. There's not a list of responses where you can open up the form, each response in a form. There's no way to pass parameters to the form and have something already filled in. So it's a one-way form, but a good thing so that's a big negative, is that it's one way. But a really nice thing about Microsoft Forms is that they can be anonymous, and you can send them to anyone on the internet. They don't have to have credentials or anything. They don't have to have access to any specific data source or SharePoint or anything. Anyone can fill it out. So that opens up a lot of possibilities for being able to have people outside your company fill out forms and be able to just intake that data of what they filled out. Okay, let's see. So I'm looking at a few things that people have said. So Joelle, I don't know if you've been reading all these, but so Gary says they use forms for new applicants for positions to fill out an essay and references to contact. That's great. That's a great idea. So applying for a job, yeah, because then anybody on the internet can see that, can get to that form. And then let's see. Oh, Tony said if Microsoft would just create a way to find out who is the owner of a form, Some people still don't have the collection button. Again, it's brand new. And then what else? Anybody asking? Do you notice anything, Joelle, that I didn't cover? Look at all responses to multiple quizzes without going to each individually. So Amanda's asking about sort of combining them. So that's where we're going to talk about what you can do with the data.
Yeah, I responded. We were talking about Power Automate.
Cool. Yep. All right. So we'll go through the process. We'll go ahead and just go through the process of creating a simple form. I'll do a new one. And then y'all can fill it out for me real quick. So we'll have some data to process. So I'll go to the Power Hour group, and I'll just do new group form here. And then I'll just say, I'm not very creative. Okay, so then as soon as I give my form a name, I can just start adding questions to it. So these are the choices I have for questions. So you give your form a name and a description, and then the types of questions you can ask are choice, text, rating, or date. And then I also have a few extras. So every now and then Microsoft will add little extra concepts in here. So I've got ranking, which is one of those questions where people can rank the different answers. I got a Likert, which is gauges attitudes and opinions about a topic. We'll try all these. File upload. Now we had a whole Power Hour about this file upload concept. It was the Power Hour was about getting documents into a library, and like the concept of people filling out this form. It was called bulk. It was something about document metadata for bulk documents into a library or something like that. But the idea was that with a group form, when people are submitting with this file upload, all those files would, you can pull them into a library. So, or they actually end up in a library. This file upload, you can't do it with anonymous people though. You can't have anonymous users attaching files. So, Net Promoter Score, and your company might use that to gauge what the customers think about your company. And then we can do sections, which is good. So I'll just do a section. This is a huge one because forms, just in general, all business forms that I ever build that usually have just sort of sections of questions. Like you might have a section with, submitter information, all about the person, their name, the date, what department they're in, stuff like that. And then you have another section about their requests they're filling out. So, and especially bigger forms all have, big sections of information. So you can even do a description of each section. And then I can add my questions. So, and then with each question that I add, I can do an image. And then, okay, I got it. All right. With the name of the form, I can do an image here. And with, like for the form itself, and then each question, I can do an image. So this gives me the ability to, I'll just see. There we go. I'm adding an image to the question. So that's pretty detailed. That could make your form look really professional. Actually having, we do not support this type of file. Actually having questions next to each thing. I don't know what type of file it requires off the top of my head, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, let's see. Get rid of that. There, I just deleted the whole question. Okay, and I'm just going to put some basic things in here real quick. And look at it suggesting things. Isn't that neat? So I'll add another option, and look, it knows that I'm asking what your favorite color is. That is really smart. What do you think? I'm curious as to what other kind of questions I can ask where it will know what my choices need to be. Cool. So I'll just put yellow. All right. And then do I want to add an other option where people could type some other color? I'm not going to do that. And then do I want people to be able to have multiple answers? And do I want this to be required? So required means it's going to have an asterisk next to it and people have to fill it out in order to submit the form. And then another option I have is instead of making it radio buttons, I can make it a drop down. And do I want to have a subtitle? So this would be a subtitle to the question itself. God, it keeps jumping around. Sorry. And then branching is a concept that's really cool. Do you remember Microsoft survey lists, Joelle, from the old school SharePoint survey lists? When they added branching to the surveys, that was like so cool. Branching logic is fun. That means that when people are answering a certain answer to a question, you can make the form go to a specific place according to their answer. So that's what branching logic is. So got my favorite color. I'll add another question. I'll do a rating. How do you like Wednesdays? And then I could say how many levels I want. And do I want it to be my symbol to be a number or a star? And then let's see, I'll do a date, birthday. And then that's required. And I'm not doing text. And let's do a ranking. So this one's going to require a little bit more work. So rank these pets. How about that? What other kind of pets? Gerbil.
It's a little blurry. It's a little blurry. Fish? Do you have fish on there?
Oh, fish. Okay. So now we'll be able to rank the pets, and I'm not going to make that required. But again, every question is going to have the ability to add branching, and I can even copy the question if I just want to make another one that's similar. And then I'll be able to move all the questions up and down. But another thing that I'll be able to do is shuffle all the options. If it's a multiple choice, I didn't point this out a second ago. If it's multiple choice and I want the options to show just in a different order each time, I can just choose shuffle options, which every time it presents it to a different person, they'll be in a different order. So now I'll add a Likert. Ooh, that's interesting. Have you seen these types of questions before? Let's see. Software opinions. I'll just say MS Office, Adobe, CRM. That's not really software. Oh, Camtasia. So anyway, and then it's got different options that you would put here. That's a pretty fancy type of question. I'm interested to see how the data is going to come in when you receive the data about that kind of question. And then we're not going to do file upload because, again, we had that whole other power hour about that. I'll have to go figure out which one that was. Net Promoter Score, what do you think? How likely are you to recommend us, to recommend Power Hour to a friend or colleague? And then we already did a section. So this whole big thing is one big section. But all right, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Now let's change the theme. That's the fun part, making it look pretty. So I can change the background theme. I can just give it a solid color or a picture, or I can customize my theme by adding my own picture. So let's see. Again, it didn't say what type of, specifically what type of image that it needs to be. I'm going to pick one of our Power Hour. Let's see, there we go. I picked like an IW Mentor online training image. Oh, that's ugly. No. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so you can pick your own image if you want, or pick one of theirs. And it's a nice concept though. And then I can preview it, which is going to show me what it'll look like when people are filling it out. And I can see what it'll look like on mobile too. It's pretty fancy. And then I can collaborate or duplicate. So this little button seems new to me. The collaboration concept was in there, but I think it was just kind of mixed in there with all the other settings. So now I had the ability to, I can send this to Joelle. And it doesn't, okay, so users with an Office 365 work or school account can view and edit. I don't want everybody viewing and editing it. People in my organization can view and edit it. Specific people in my organization, that would be a better one to have as the default. What do you think? Do not just share it with everyone having the ability to edit the form. So specific people in my organization. So that's Joelle. So feel free to edit the form if you'd like. And then I can copy this link and then give Joelle that link. So I'll go to Teams, and that's a quick way to do that. Okay, so now I've given Joelle the link. And then share as a template. So this means, this is a cool concept. So this means if I like the way this form looks and the idea of the way I structured it, and I want to share it with people as a template, I can do that. So this means that anyone with this link can duplicate the whole form. That's pretty cool. That's fairly new too. So all I have to do is just copy that link and just send it to somebody in a chat or in an email, and then they can have their own copy of the form. So it's similar to in Microsoft in Power Automate, where you can take a flow and send a copy of it to someone. So that's similar to that concept where you're just saying, here you go. Now this one's yours and you can do what you will with it. Okay, so then that's what that collaborate or duplicate screen is. And then here are my settings. Okay, anyone can respond means that's going to be anonymous. And then only people in my organization can respond. Do I want it to record their name and say only one response per person? And then I can say specific people in my organization can respond. And then I'll be able to also record their name and one response per person. So I'm curious, so you all are external users, but you're in the organization as guests. So I'm going to try this setting so we can test this out and see. And then just real quick, I have a start date, end date. I can say whether I want to shuffle the questions, show a progress bar. This is only available for multi-page surveys, forms, or questions. So that is going to be when you have branching logic turned on and you're actually, directing people to a different set of questions according to what they're answering. Then you can show a progress bar so they'll know how far they've gotten. And we can do that too, I think, if we have time. And then I can customize the thank you message. We appreciate you. And allow receipt of responses after submission. That means non-anonymous people will receive an email receipt letting them know that they submitted a form. And then do I want to get notified about every response? I do not. Okay, so then I can send this. So I'll go ahead and shorten the URL, copy that, and I'm going to put it in the chat here. And I want to see if you all as external, your guests in my tenant, if it will let you do that. But it's probably I'm probably going to have to turn on the capability for anonymous. That's what my assumption is, but this is a fun little test. So now I'll be able to, let's see. Oh, I can print the form. So this print form setting just takes me to basically in the browser. It pulls up the print functionality in my browser and it gives me like a pretty printable version of the form. That's a nice new feature. And then I can make it multilingual if I want to. No permission? Okay, cool. So I'll just say, I'll change it to anyone can respond. All right, send. I don't know if it's going to give me a different URL, but you all try it now. I'm not sure if it changed it. Oh, I can also do a QR code if I want to. So if you're watching this, you might want to test that out just for fun. If you're watching this, you can hold your camera on your phone, just switch it over to camera, and then aim it at my screen here, and then it should pull up this form in just on your phone. Cool. So let me know if anybody happens to try that, if you happen to have your phone on you. Okay. Okay, so people are filling out my October form. I can see that I've got responses already. So I haven't even refreshed the screen or anything, and it's already showing me that I've got responses. Now I'm going to go in here and I'll let a few people respond to it, but I'm going to go in here and change some stuff. And actually, I'll just make a copy of it. And I'll make a copy of the form, and in that copy, then I'll start doing some branching logic so you can see how that works. I think we've done several power hours with Microsoft Forms in them, but we've never covered the branching logic. So, oh cool, Amanda tried the QR code. That is so neat. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, thanks for trying that out. And then I can take this form and embed it. And also there's a Microsoft Forms web part as well. So you could, and I'm kind of conflicted as to whether you'd want to embed a form on a SharePoint page as a web part or just send the person the link to the form and just put a hyperlink if you need to link to the form from SharePoint. A lot of the times in my experience, when you put a form, embed a form or an app or something on a page, it confuses the end users, and there's too much around the page for them to still click on, like all the navigation and other web parts and things going on, that it ends up being confusing and overwhelming, and they end up clicking the wrong thing or not submitting the form. So that's just my experience. So I like just sending people straight to the form just in its own browser window. Okay, so let me see. I've got 22 responses. I'll just look at this real quick. So it's showing me my responses. Most people, isn't that funny that it put color codes on these, but blue is orange. So it didn't necessarily know that these were the names of colors. Oh, and as people are submitting the form, this chart is changing before my very eyes. So that's pretty neat. And then how do you like Wednesdays? We get a 3.78 for Wednesdays, and then as people submit forms, this keeps changing. Your birthday. Oh, so this is just a list of birthdays. So on this screen where it's showing me the responses, it's just going to show a list of responses. Some people are putting the actual year. Some people are just putting 2021. You're very young. And then this is really interesting. Look at this. Isn't this cool looking, Joelle? This ranking. Rank these pets. So the dog is more people's first choice. So it's a gradient from red to blue. So the most common things that are people's first choice are in red, and then as it gets to be the last choice, like fish is a lot of people's last choice, it is the darker blue. So that is so cool. I never tried that out before. All right, then we have, oh, and I misspelled this question. That's what I get for trying to talk and type at the same time. And then we've got your opinions about software. So people, option one, I didn't give my options any names. I just left them as options 1 through 5. So obviously in the real world, you would actually have something written here as far as usability or speed or different concepts within each piece of software that you're ranking. So these are the rankings. Microsoft Office got more option ones, and CRM got the most option 5s so far. So that's interesting. How likely are you recommend Power Hour to a friend or colleague? We don't have any detractors. That's good. Probably if they're detractors, they would have stopped watching by now. So we've weeded them out already. So we have a few meh.
Like, I have nothing else to do today. Why not?
Y'all are making me sad. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so a lot of people like blue. That is my favorite color as well. Okay, so let's go back to okay. We'll do another one. I'll just copy this. And I'm just making a copy of the form, and then in this new form, I'm going to do branching logic. So y'all get to fill out another form. It's going to be so much fun. So I made a copy of it, and then I need to go to, so here's my copy. I got to give it a new name. So I have to go into the form to give it a new name. October form with branching. Okay, and then I'll even give it a different, different theme. Okay, so I've got my first section. I only added one section to this, so and you don't need to have sections to do I'll just remove just the section there. You don't need to have sections to do the branching logic. Okay, so this multiple choice is the perfect candidate for having branching logic, because you're not going to put branching logic on something that is just like a text answer that could just be free-form text. You can't do that. So it has to be something that's required and a multiple choice question. So I'll go ahead and choose add branching. So now where do I want to take them according, so for each possible thing that they could answer, red, blue, green, or yellow, I can define on each of these options where in the survey I want it to jump to if they answer that question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask some specific questions having to do with each color. Okay, so that's what it would kind of be in the real world, because you're going down different paths of asking them more specifics about a certain choice that they chose. So I'm going to change this one. Oh, wait, I got to get out of the branching thing. There we go. I'm not doing branching right now. Cancel. Back. There we go. Okay, so how do you like red? So if they choose red, I'm going to take them to how do you like red? The day you started liking blue. There, I'm just changing as little as possible on here. So that is going to be a date field. And then green, rank these pets. Rank these pets. And then yellow is going to take them to a different software opinions for, this is just, I'm just having too much fun with this. People who like yellow. And then we'll just leave this one here and see what happens. So now if they choose red, let's go to the branching now. It's going to be interesting how this works, because if I jump, like for yellow, they're not going to get asked, several different questions. So if they choose red, I'm just going to say, how do you like red? But it's going to jump to question 2, which is really, it's not really jumping anywhere, right? Because it's not skipping anything. But if they choose blue, I'm going to jump to blue. So it's skipping the how do you like red question. So then green, that one, and then yellow is that one. So it's really jumping to a certain spot. So people who like red are going to, it's going to jump to this question, but it's not going to skip anything else. It's just going to keep going. Does that make sense? Joelle, do you have any experience in branching logic?
Yeah, I mean, I put it into forms. But I think that makes sense, what you're saying.
And then let's see, so I'm finished with my branching settings. So I could reset the branching if I change my mind. And then I could just go back to the form. Okay, and it's showing me a little branching icon, letting me know that I put branching on here. And then how do you like red? Now, if they choose red and they go to this question, I can add branching to it. So then once they answer, how do you like red? I'm just going to jump them to question number 6, no matter what. So that's how I can make it so that people who like red aren't getting asked like the other questions like the blue, and just having it like color coded, have it make sense, how you could have completely different paths about different topics. I think using colors kind of helps kind of explain why maybe if somebody likes red, I don't want to ask them about blue and green and other things like that. So I want to go ahead and put the branching logic after they answer this specific question about red, or I might have several questions about red that it's going to have in a row. Then I want to go ahead and jump them to maybe one last question or to the very end of the form. So then the blue question people are going to be asked about blue, and then they're just going to be taken to question 6. And then the green people are going to answer the green, and then they're just going to be jumping to question 6. Same with yellow. So that's just another thing to think about, is not just jumping to a certain question according to what you answered, but making sure that they're not answering going to a bunch of questions you don't want them to go to. So you kind of always need to put the branching to the question, and then put branching on that question as well to point them to where to go after that. So then you can have sort of sets of questions. So I'll go ahead and go back, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to add another question in here. And let's see, favorite shade of red. And then that's just going to be text. And then people, okay, so if their favorite color is red and I'm going down this red path, then I need to go to the branching logic and change it, because if they like red, I want them to answer both red questions and then jump to the end. Okay, so you always have to kind of think about what your groups of questions are. And then the sections concept might be a good, easy way. If you just put things in sections, that might be a good, easy way to organize your form too. I'm just not doing sections right now. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back to the branching screen. So when I go to the branching screen, this is where I can kind of fix what I did. So if I answer, how do you like red? I'm just going to go to the next question. But after I answer the favorite shade of red, then I'm going to go, again, I can take them to the very end, but maybe I want everybody who fills out this form to have to answer like this very last question, or maybe a certain set of questions that I want everybody answering. Okay, so now I'm going to go back out of the branching options, and then my settings, I'll say anyone can respond, accept responses, customize thank you, I've got all that. Then I'll send it, shorten the URL, copy that, paste it in the chat. So with branching, and you can use the QR code if you want. And go. So let's see how that. So I'll go ahead and fill it out. I'll go ahead and I'm gonna have to navigate away from the QR code if you haven't grabbed it by now. So I'll go ahead and click preview. So now let's see what this looks like. So notice, so I've got branching. So because I've got the branching turned on, that's another thing I wanted to do. I want to put the progress bar on here, because the progress bar was another setting that I had only if I'm using branching. Oh, wait. Only available for multi-page surveys, forms, or quizzes. Oh, it's supposed to be multi-page. I wonder why it's not doing that. Maybe it's just the quantity of questions. I'm not sure. Okay. I won't worry about that. I'm going to say blue. And then the day, so since I chose blue, it just shows me the next question right here, the day you started liking blue. And then, extremely likely. But if I choose yellow, see, it immediately just changes before my very eyes to only show me the yellow question. Okay, so my response was submitted, and then I've got 11 responses so far. So then obviously we're going to have less of each of these other ones. Does that make sense, the way I sort of explained that with the color? Oh yeah, it was smart enough. It wasn't smart enough to put the colors in the pie chart, huh? Oh, okay. So Mandy said, that's good. So any other, let me know. So Mandy said, will you be joining the Christmas party? And then you have a yes and a no. Then if they choose yes, then it's got, do you have any allergies? Do you have any specific, what kind of transportation, different things like that. But if they choose no, it'll be like, thanks. Okay, well, we'll miss you. So yeah, that's a great one. So let's go ahead and now we talked about forms. Now let's talk about the other thing in here. And I'll just go back to, let me go back to Power Hour before I create another form. I'll do a quiz. And testing y'all. I'm testing y'all. Okay. So now I'm choosing, I'm building a quiz. So which one is correct? Trying to make this as simple and quick as possible. Okay, so I can add multiple options. I can display a message to respondents who selected this answer. That's really cool. So we have that in our quizzes on our website, our training website, iwmentor.com. We have that concept, and we have quizzes throughout, all our courses that we teach. And we have the correct, once you've answered a question on a quiz, we've got little descriptions that Joelle and I put in there kind of explaining why a certain thing was the answer. So this is where I can display, you are so right. And then, nope. And I can add multiple options. And then when I'm creating my quiz, I need to tell it which one of these is the correct answer. So that is the correct answer. That's important. It needs to know what to score you, right? And I need to say how many points I'm going to say that you get for each question that you answer correctly. And questions can be required or not also. And again, I have the ability to shuffle the options. I'll do that. I have the ability to change it to a drop down instead of radio button. And math. So if I'm doing math, it's actually got the ability to do an equation here. So I'm not doing math. These are not math answers. All right, and also I have the ability to add branching here. So when somebody's taking the quiz, it's telling them how many points. Wait, no, it's not. Let me see. Let me preview it. Yeah, it is telling them how many points when they're taking the quiz. All right, I'll add just a couple more. Let's see. The tricky thing about a text one is people would have to type it exactly right. So who is the oh wait, I know. What is the best season? And I know what my favorite season is. Fall. And then so that's all you have the ability to do when it's a text one. You're just typing what the correct thing is. So I'll give them 5 points for that. not required. And then a date question. So what day was Joelle born? No, because then they'd have to know the year and everything. Who knows that? I don't even know that. I know your birth date. But what day?
What about what star sign do you think Joelle is?
Oh.
Or what star
not a
sign do you
date,
think Laura
though.
is? Oh, it has to be a date. Sorry, I wasn't reading the...
What?
A date.
Date
What
is
date do
today.
you think Power Hour started?
Oh, yeah, but I don't know that. I don't know what the correct
know.
answer is. So
It can
what
just
date
be
is
whoever
today?
gets closest.
What?
Be whoever gets closest, if there's an option.
That's weird. It's not letting me. I don't know. Okay. What was it? Was the thing you said a second ago? Oh, about your astrological sign.
Yeah. Or yours. It should be yours. They know you better
Oh.
than me.
Oh, suggested options. Interesting. What is add all? Oh, I just put a yes and a no. No, that's not. Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Pisces. I don't know how to spell Pisces. I'm probably not a Pisces. Anyway, all right. So that's required. And for quizzes, we also have some of these other options too, like sections. But let's go. We're just mainly looking right now at what the differences are between a form and a quiz. Okay, so with a quiz, we've got, look at these. Look at these themes. These are really pretty. Oh my goodness. Why do quizzes have such cooler themes than forms? Okay. Settings, again, I could print it just like with a form. Anyone can respond. Blah, 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 blah. I'll send that, shorten it, copy. Let's do this. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about receiving the data, which I know I've done this in many other Power Hours. So, we're not, obviously we have 7 minutes left, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on that. But the gist is that if you want to look at some other, look at the form data in some other way than just going and clicking on this responses tab and looking at that, or going to the responses tab and clicking to export it to a spreadsheet, which is not dynamic. If you want to dynamically put the data in SharePoint or do something else with it, you just use a flow. So you go to flow, sign in, and it is going to be a trigger. So the form is going to be a trigger. I'll just create a new flow. And then I like to just skip that little wizard at the beginning. And then look, Microsoft Forms is right there at the top, showing me that that's a trigger that I can use. So when I choose this trigger, the only trigger for forms is when a form is submitted. So then I just pick a form, move there. And then, so notice that this is only showing me my forms, which is kind of annoying. And I know we just did this in a Power Hour like a month or two ago where I had to go get the GUID of a different form. So, because it wasn't showing here. So let's go get this first one, this October form. So I'm going to take that and open it up and look in the browser where it says form ID. So it says form ID equals, and it's got this big, long, ugly, cryptic, really long, random set of characters. I'm going to copy that. That is long. And then I'll put custom value here and just paste that. And that is my form. And then the next one you need, I'll type Microsoft Forms. Microsoft Forms. The next one you need is to get the response details. So that always has to go with the trigger. So the trigger is just what's going to kick off the flow. If you want the data, if you want to see any of the data that was submitted, you always have to use the get response details. So I'm going to put that in there. And then for the response ID, I'm telling it I want the response from this thing that triggered it. So then if I want to put that data in SharePoint, the next step that I would have to do would be in SharePoint, I would have to go create a list or something, because then I would probably want to create an item in that list. So obviously I didn't do all those steps, but if I want to take the data from the form response, I'm going to have that list is going to have to exist ahead of time. So I'll just go to whatever this site is, product support, and pick a list. Obviously, I did not create a list to match what the questions are in that form, but that's what you would do. So it's like double work. So you'd have to go create the SharePoint list and create all the same questions that you're asking in the form, and then have it create an item in the SharePoint list when somebody fills out a form. So then obviously the form that you go to when the data is in the SharePoint list is not going to look anything like what the form looked like when they filled it out. So this is just for you, like processing the data later on. So like, for example, if they're filling out a multiple choice question in the form, it might not be worth your while to create it as a multiple choice question in SharePoint. If you just need to see the values of what they filled in that field, it's probably just easier if you make them text fields in SharePoint. So like, so here is where I have my favorite color. So now it's showing me as I'm putting my cursor in each field in this SharePoint item I'm creating, it's showing me the data that I have to pick from. And these are fields in the SharePoint list, like product image. But it's letting me pick these different just fields that I had in my survey. So that is like the basics of what you can do with the form data and how you can get it somewhere else. Now, think about this. You could also, now it has an automated way that it will send a notification letting you know somebody's filled out the form, and send an email to the person who filled out the form letting them know they filled out a form. But if you wanted to, you could just not use those built-in settings, and you could create an action in a flow that sends a special customized email to that person, or sends an email to you, or creates an item in a SQL database, or so any of the possible hundreds of connectors that you have in a flow, you can do something with that data they just submitted in the form and do something in one of those connectors. This is just one example. Okay. Let's see. Well, I haven't really been looking at the chat. Have you, Joelle?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say what the correct answer was when I...
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. The last two were...
Okay, I'm not sharing my screen, and I've got to, it's probably too late now, but let me see. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry about that. I don't think I'm not restricting it to people only being able to fill it out once. So technically you could go try filling it out again. Sorry about that. But I do have the correct response in here now. Now that we have 1 minute left. Okay. It looks like most of you know that today is Wednesday. That's good. And okay, that was fun. Let's see. So some of you randomly guessed correctly that I'm a Gemini. Good job. 5 of you guessed correctly. And then it looks like what is the best season, where I just typed the word fall in there. people, it shows, let me go back to sharing my screen again. So it shows the points, and it shows what people filled in, and it shows all the things that people typed for that text question that I asked. And so this is, again, just different types of questions are going to display differently in here. So then look at this. I can review the answers, which if it's a form or a quiz, you can review the answers. And that's going to take you to one at a time where you go look at people's answers. So the main difference between this and a form is that this one is going to show things, show like the red and the green for correct and incorrect, and it lets you, but both of them will let you scroll through the different ones. So, and then you have post scores. So then I can see that it's letting me see the actual scores, percentages of all the respondents. So since y'all were all anonymous respondents, it doesn't really do me any good to know what your scores were, because I have no idea who each person was who took the quiz. So obviously it would probably be a better idea to have either ask them their name in the question in the survey if they're anonymous, or have it not anonymous and record people's names from your organization. So let me, oh, by the way, our website, if you are looking, if you've never watched Power Hour before, our website, we are a training company, and it's iwmentor.com. And this is all about our training, but you can go to the schedule button, and that's where you'll be able to see our next Power Hours. I have a new course that is on here. It is Live Online Power Apps Fundamentals. It is a 1-day Power Apps class. The Power Apps class I usually teach is 3 days, but this is more condensed to mainly getting those fundamentals knocked out in 1 day. And then we also just this month, our site management, let me go to my blog. Our site management class is free just the month of October. So we've got, 11 days left in the month. So here's my blog post I wrote about that. I'll put that in the chat too. It's just wonderlaura.com. And then that's got a link straight to that class in our training, on our training site. All right. That wraps it up. Thanks everybody for voting. That was a fun one. I was just very nerdy, like having fun making up random questions. But now we know forms and surveys and what collections are and aren't, and what you can do with forms and what you can't. And you all get to try it out. So thanks everybody for coming to Power Hour. And we'll see you next time. And check out the schedule whenever you want to know when the next one is. And you can sign up to get the newsletter so you can vote on a topic. And subscribe to our channel. It's called Wonder Laura.